Hey folks, thank you so much for joining Live Impact News this Friday evening. I'm Jeb Goldman, sitting in right now as Colin Mayfield makes his way back from the studio. We'll kick you off right now. There is a big game tomorrow night between Charlotte FC and the Philadelphia Union. First place Philadelphia Union, might I add. And who better to talk about such a big game than Callum Williams with the MLS. Callum, how's it going?
Thanks for having me. How are you?
We're good. You know, it's been an interesting season for us here in Charlotte. We were top of the East at one point. That was an exciting time in the city. Now, no longer. Philadelphia and Tyereo own that spot. Charlotte, wishy-washy, coming off a big win against Toronto. What did they do right, and how can they carry that momentum into tomorrow's match?
Look, I think for Charlotte, the last two victories were so important. Dean Smith said to me yesterday that, look, the team were in a bit of a funk. They weren't clicking. They had found an element of inconsistency, which is obviously what they didn't want. Patrick Argyman was showing flashes in front of goal, but again, they were inconsistent. And a lot was on the shoulders of Pep Biel, who I think Dean Smith is relying on once again, considering how Philadelphia Union play with a high press. To my understanding, I think the game plan will be to play in between the lines of that press. So Pep Biel will be of considerable importance tomorrow for sure. But I think the last two victories from the last three games for Charlotte were of major importance to get them back to at least the conversation of being involved in the playoffs. Because you're right, at one stage they were flying. That has not been the case over the course of the last couple of weeks. And Dean Smith even said to me yesterday, Jeb, that he's not happy. In fact, he hates the fact they've got 8 defeats on the season already.
Yeah, and I think I speak for most of the folks here in the Queen City when we feel the same way. A big question going into tomorrow's match that it's on my mind, I think it's on the coaches as well, is who is starting between the sticks. You have the reigning goalkeeper of the year, Cristian Kalina, having kind of a shaky season. Last match, we saw David Bingham, who I'm a personal fan of, growing up watching the San Jose Earthquakes. This guy has been an MLS staple for almost a decade now, if not longer. You know, have you heard any kind of indication or any rumblings about who will get the nod tomorrow?
No, I haven't. Dean Smith actually said to us yesterday as well that he was going to sleep on the decision and make a call on match day. So not entirely sure, but it's strange, isn't it? Because you're right, Cristian Kalina has been one of the most consistent goalkeepers in Major League Soccer since his arrival. Came over with a really good footballing resume, having played at a really good level in European football. And at times looked like he was unbeatable, looked like he was ready to perhaps make a step back to European football. He was such an asset for Charlotte over the course of their development into the team they've become now. But honestly, I think, to my understanding, one of the issues for Cristian Kalina, and I can attest to being a parent of 2 young children, is that he has 2 young children. And for those that don't have children, I can say, like every parent, you don't sleep. And it's very challenging. It's amazing, but it's very challenging at times. And I think that may very well be the case. And the issue with Cristian Kalina is that he's just not sleeping enough. He's shown that he's not as sharp as he regularly is. The last time I was in Charlotte, Jeb, I did the home game against Chicago Fire, that 4-1 defeat. Mm-hmm. And I got to admit, I was really surprised. I think Chicago were good, but that day Charlotte made them look like Barcelona. And there were some really, I thought, efforts that you would describe as half chances. The first goal Chicago scored from Jonathan Bamba, I thought was a very savable shot. Mm-hmm. In the end, it's certainly a shot that Cristian Kalina, in my opinion, would regularly say. He didn't on that occasion. In fact, it was almost borderline embarrassing giving the goal away like he did. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all, Jeb, if he's given another rest. He's not going to get any sleep anytime soon. No. So we'll wait and see. And as you mentioned, David Bingham has been in the league for a long time. Over 300 appearances in Major League Soccer for San Jose, LA Galaxy, Portland Timbers as well. You know, he's been towards the top end of the Western Conference for some time, and so he's the perfect goalkeeper to have come in and replace somebody like Kalina.
Absolutely, and I think you'll be one of the first to agree that having a competition in net will make any team better. If you look at all of the best clubs, that seems to be a pretty recurring theme. Let's go a little forward in the line. Let's go to the defense. They're going against. I'm not sure. Is Tyereo back? Is he with Philadelphia?
No, to my understanding, so obviously he got an injury a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if he's going to be available. But obviously, if he isn't, that is of a major benefit to Charlotte FC because,
absolutely,
let me tell you, Jeb, I've done Philadelphia Union quite a lot this year, and he's one of these centre forwards that he just needs half a chance. Even when Philadelphia aren't playing well, he always finds an opportunity. And I know he's not scored in the last 3. But prior to that, I think it was 6 goals in 4 games. He's one of these predatorial type centre forwards who just seems to find himself in the right place at the right time. That's not through chance. That's instinct, you know?
Right. You think this is kind of a crazy comparison, but I think Dimitar Berbatov, right? A guy who just knows where the ball is, take the shot. I think about that game against Inter Miami. I mean, he didn't need much to get going then. So that'd be great. I hope he's all right. Hope everything's all right. But we obviously here in Charlotte, we want to make sure that we don't want to necessarily play the potential MVP of the league if we don't have to. Looking at our defense, what do you think right now? We've seen a number of different combinations. Andrew Privet is great. Tim Ream is great. Malanda is great. They don't. The Dean has said he doesn't want. It doesn't really seem like 3 at the back is going to be his style. So, what do you think is the best combination for Charlotte's backline right now? Because it seems like they're still trying to figure it out.
I think the 4 that they've gone with in recent weeks, whether it's Scardina or not at right back, I think Doumbia in at left back has got a really good footballing resume. Has played in the Champions League, has played at a very high level in France and Belgium. And the 2 centre-halves, I think, we saw it, didn't we, in year 1? They were arguably the best central defensive duo in Major League Soccer. And what I will say about those 2, particularly Adilson Malanda, Jeb, I think Charlotte FC fans should enjoy them whilst they have them.
I was going to say, how long do we have with them?
Yeah, exactly. I was over in Paris a couple of months ago working and speaking to people around French football. And the one thing they continuously said to me was how surprised they were that Adilson Malanda sort of slipped through the cracks in French football. And I think there's going to be a lot of suitors over the course of the next 6 months. I know there's already been people having a look, teams across a couple of different leagues in Europe. But it wouldn't surprise me if an offer came in from Ligue 1, from France, over the course of the next 6 months at some point. But look, the back 4, going back to your question, the back 4, I think, is probably best suited to the way that Charlotte want to play. But one of the things that I was thinking about actually yesterday, Jeb, was I think Ashley Westwood is tremendous. I'm an Aston Villa fan. I watched Ashley Westwood. I've commentated on Ashley Westwood in the Premier League in the past.
Right.
Very astute central midfielder, even at the age of 35 now. He's very, very good, keeps himself in great shape, can see a pass, as good as anybody in Major League Soccer. But I just wonder now if it's time to perhaps start dropping somebody a little deeper alongside him. Is it time to have somebody, maybe it's a Djibril Gianni type, who can go box to box? Maybe you ask a little bit more of Brandt Bronico or something. I know Brandt Bronico's more, his preference is to press forward, and I understand that. But when you have somebody as good as Pep Biel pulling the strings in the attacking part of the field, I wonder, is it at some point, particularly on the road away at Philadelphia Union and places of the ilk, I wonder, is it worth having somebody alongside Ashley Westwood and try a double pivot of some sort and have the ground covered that at the age of 35, without being disrespectful, Ashley Westwood just can't cover anymore, and allow him to concentrate on being the direct passer of the ball, allow him to help them in transition, but have somebody tidying up in the little pockets underneath him, have somebody covering ground and stopping passes coming into the opposing number 10. I just wonder if it's time to think a little bit more like that. I know that's happened on 1 or 2 occasions with Charlotte, but I wonder now, especially on the road away at someone like Philly, as I mentioned, is it worth just having that sort of mindset now and being okay with conceding a little bit more possession and what have you? So we'll wait and see, because in my opinion, I just don't think the back line of Charlotte have had enough protection this season.
And I think many agree with you. Especially, they brought in Eric Williamson, who's a vet, United States national in his day. I think a lot of us are also looking to see a little bit more cohesion between the back line and the midfield. Speaking of the United States national team, this is a very interesting time in the MLS. We run into it every year, kind of that summer international. And a lot of, whether you're pro the MLS season, against it, I know there's been a lot of debate over switching to a more traditional European season. Right now, we still have the regular MLS season, and that means for the Gold Cup, huge absences over these next few. Obviously, United States men's national team subject of a world of controversy right now. We may get into that, but something I want to ask you about is obviously Charlotte FC. We're hurt. Philly also hurt by some of these absences. Which team do you think is more impacted by the United States men's national team call-ups?
Oh, that's a great question. Would be the more hurt. I think right now, given where the goals are coming from a Charlotte point of view, I would suspect that Charlotte are probably more affected by the Gold Cup. But I think Philadelphia Union have had more to deal with in terms of absentees, not just through the Gold Cup, but through injuries and suspensions and what have you as well. If that is the case and Tyereo isn't available tomorrow, which to my understanding, I don't think he is. I don't know that for sure, but if he's not available, then that's a big one to lose as well, alongside all the Gold Cup absentees as well. To lose a goalkeeper like Andre Blake is massive in Major League Soccer. He's been the epitome of consistency. But, look, Tim Ream has obviously been a staple since he's come into Charlotte, and Patrick Agyemang gives you so much on the ball and off the ball, but certainly on the ball, and he allows the team to go direct. And I'm interested to see who replaces him tomorrow, actually, Jeb, because my assumption would be, and I could be wrong here, maybe you can tell me, but my assumption would be Toklamati.
That's right,
who I know was impressed in training. Dean Smith described him as a bit of an unknown quantity, which I thought was an interesting line because obviously he comes in with a wealth of experience, maybe a little strong, but he had a good footballing resume coming in, playing in the top flight in Israel, and he's seemingly now found his way in Major League Soccer, but he's still only 20 years old. He's got a lot of learning to do. But Dean Smith seems to like that about him, is that not too many people know much about him outside of the Charlotte market. And so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But look, no doubt, I don't think Patrick Agyemang is a goal scorer that's going to score 15 or 20 goals a year. That doesn't mean he doesn't give you something that Charlotte will definitely be lacking tomorrow.
Absolutely. That brings me to my next question. We're coming up on the summer transfer window for the MLS. Obviously, in Europe, we've seen a host of absolutely phenomenal moves. It's been kind of the firecracker transfer window we were expecting so early on. A question I have for you is a little niche, but as a Quakes fan growing up, I'm no stranger to strange secondary strikers. We had Chad Barrett for a while. We had Aaron Gordon. I'm pulling some. They have Preston Judd now, who I think fits in that exact niche quality of guys who could probably get 5 goals a season, put a ball up in the air. Charlotte FC hasn't really had that. Do you think that's some? And obviously, we would love a new DP number 9. I think Dean and everyone agrees Agyemang is the guy right now. But in lieu of that, do you think they go out? What moves do you think the club is going to look for once that window finally does open?
Before I do, here's another Quakes name to throw at you, Stephen Lenhart.
Oh, Stephen Lenhart. That man could get into a tussle.
MLS legend right there. Look, I think from a Charlotte perspective, I think they know they have to add. But to my understanding, with how the salary cap is working, I think, I could be wrong here, but I think they have to move people out before they can move people in. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy. No. I think, as you say, Agyemang is the man for now. But as you said, I think a designated player, centre forward, a proven goal scorer would be somebody that I think everybody would like. But the good thing about having somebody like Dean Smith is that he's got a wealth of experience. He has tons of contacts across world football, but particularly across the English Premier League and Championship. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were able to move 1 or 2 players that are in the rotation, players that you would call squad players, to make a bit of room on the cap. And he goes and he finds somebody who is, maybe just trying to get into a championship team. They can't quite get into the championship team, wherever that is, and offers that second striker and offers that different approach if it's needed. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. I would assume that would get done in this summer window, because Dean Smith knows that they can't continue to go on and rely on the people they have relied on all season to score the goals, because you simply need a centre forward to be at centre stage at some point of the campaign. And as much as everybody relies at times on Patrick Agyemang to be able to play direct, I think at times it's a little bit predictable. And I think Dean Smith and Charlotte FC would love a different option and a different way of playing through a centre forward.
I've heard his old buddy Jimmy Vardy is looking for a club, so let's manifest that maybe that could happen. And just really quickly here, on the topic of quick, a big criticism for Charlotte FC has been the pace moving forward. It's improving. It is improving, but I think a lot of people have looked at Wilfried Zaha, and he hasn't had the legs that maybe they saw when he was at Palace those years ago. It's been a while. Do you think that is a concern? Obviously, we're going against some monster fullbacks. Kai Wagner might be the best left back in the MLS, maybe MLS history, to be honest. Is that something? Because it's going to have to go through the wings, because Toklamati is not a direct option. What does that look like for the team tomorrow, do you think?
Yeah, you might even have to go shorter tomorrow as well. And like I said, before, the preference for anybody playing against Philadelphia is to go direct and play over the press. But I think actually tomorrow you may very well have to go and be a little braver and play through the lines, which I think is a very, very dangerous game to play if he's going to play through the back and try and connect through the centre with Westwoods, try and find the feet of Biel in between the lines maybe. I agree. I think you've probably got to go into the wide areas. So once again, a lot of eyeballs, as they should be, will focus on Wilfried Zaha with the resume that he has. But honestly, Jeb, with Zaha, it's interesting because you know better than me. You see him a lot more than I do. But I had heard for years about there being an issue with him off the field when he was playing in London with Crystal Palace. I had heard that he likes to be at home. I don't know. I'm assuming he's settled in well at Charlotte. I don't know. There was a story or two about him when he was playing in France. I have a good friend of mine who covers Lyon. Who obviously Zaha was on loan at for a short time, and he said that his attitude wasn't great because he couldn't get a game. There's a youngster, 20 years of age now, called Yannick Fofana, who is a name for people to hold on to and watch out for over the course of the next 2 years or so. And I don't know. I think you want your designated players to stand tall. You want your designated players to deliver in big moments, even when it's going really tough as well. You need your stars to deliver, and certainly somebody with his experience as well. You would rely on someone like him to play his part, and I don't know if that's been the case enough this year for Charlotte. And so again, it's a big game for him. It's a really big game. I don't know who will be playing at right back for Philadelphia. It may be Frankie Westfield, who's been wonderful, 19 years of age. It may be Olivier Baizo, tough tackling Cameroonian maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's somebody else. But I think Wilfried Zaha said just the other day, didn't he, that MLS has been a lot more physical, much better than he thought it was. We've heard that before, haven't we? We've heard that before.
I was going to say, it sounds like a broken record.
Come over here. It's not that league anymore. And so I think Wilfried Zaha is the latest example of a big European name coming over here and actually now having this adaptation period where he realises actually this is a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. And he's now making that transition into understanding what it takes to be a success in Major League Soccer.
Absolutely, some growing pains. And because you brought it up, I want to pick just ask really quickly. You brought up Lyon. There's been some rumors that we might have another United States men's national player to root for. Tanner Tessman played for a little while. Do you believe Matt Turner may be making the jump from the aforementioned Crystal? Is that something we could maybe see? Has your friend said anything to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I don't know if it's done, but I think it's close. And he's look. He just needs to play, doesn't he? He needs to play prior to the World Cup. And
he's got a year.
Look, this is the year he has to play, and obviously there's an opportunity with Lyon at the moment where their goalkeeper is going to move on. To my understanding, might happen over the weekend.
Yes.
So there's a chance. Lyon are a massive football club. They're huge. Expectations are as high as they come in France. Maybe just underneath Paris Saint-Germain, but look, I mean, they're a massive club, and I think Matt Turner would be a fool to turn down a move there. It doesn't matter that you're leaving the Premier League. You're going to go and play European football. They got into the Conference League. Go and play. You need sharpness, and you're going to be playing at a very, very high level. I hope his agent is pushing him, prodding him, trying to understand that this is a good move and make it happen.
Awesome. Callum Williams with the MLS. Thank you so much for joining us. I promise we are the only show you'll join all week where you bring up Steven Lenhart's name. How fun is that? Thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. Hopefully the Crown can get a win tomorrow.
Thanks, Jeb. Appreciate it.